Yeah, this is my review of I ran a 50 miler at the weekend, and I decided that rather than trying to sit down and find the time to type it all up and put my thoughts in writing like I usually do, I'm going to try and do a video. And the way I'm going to try and do that is using a bunch of tools really. The Relive app, which basically anytime it pulls off a GPS that you've run, and then it maps it all out and puts any pictures in it and all those kind of things. And also my story from Instagram as well. So you can follow along all of my races and my runs. So I put them on Instagram. So it's instagram.com/Rich Runs Too Far. And then obviously YouTube is Rich Runs Too Far as well. So we're going to look over those two things today, just to have a look at kind of what was going on that day, and I'll kind of talk through how it was and all those kind of things. Now, it's not my first 50 miler by any chance. Last year I did a couple. I did another one by Albion Running. I did their Mendip Marauder, which was incredibly kind of hilly. That was interesting. But this time was their version, their flat one, which, spoiler alert, you'll see in a minute, is not 100% flat. My intention of going into this one was just to take a nice easy run. I've got a 100 miler next month, and this was a training run to test my kit, to make sure that I was happy running with the amount of weight that I need on my back and those kinds of things. So I carried a lot of kit with me that I usually wouldn't carry with a 50-mile race or shorter. I ran a 35 a couple of weeks ago and didn't take anything except for a water bottle and a phone, and that was it. So I am into carrying light, but for the 100 miler they have a kit list of requirements I have to carry, so I had to get some running in for that. So the route itself starts in Taunton and ended in Minehead. It was a lovely little route. As we can see by the kind of the GPS thing, in as it kicks in, we start off at Taunton, and we start off at like 9:30 in the morning, and I think there was about 50 runners maybe on the 50 miler. There was also a 100 miler going on the day, and also a second 50 miler that the guys at Albion were running, which they called their hilly version. So they had the 250 milers, and then the 100 miler was just people doing both of those at once. It's the first time I've ever done a race where I've not done the longest version of what's going on as well, just because I really wasn't ready to do the 100 miler at this stage. So we came out of Taunton about 7:30, and quite quickly I established what at the time felt like a very, very comfortable pace. Very, very comfortable. I didn't have any problems keeping it or anything like that. And later when I looked over my splits, I realised that it was a little bit fast. I was looking to average about maybe 10-minute miles, something along those lines, and I was sub 9. No, 12-minute miles I was looking for, and I was sub 9 running for the first 10-15 miles, which was a little bit naughty. But I came out, and it just felt fine. It just felt perfectly normal, like it was any other run. And the weight on the pack wasn't a problem or anything like that. So that was great. So coming out of Taunton, as the pace went on and the run went on, we got to the first checkpoint and didn't really have any problems at that stage. One of the things I was looking to do at this race was nutrition. Now, where I had been trying in the past 2 ultras to actually compete and actually win. The last one, for example, I came 5th, and the nutrition is what held me back. I wasn't able to hold food down. I wasn't able to keep the energy high enough to keep up the pace that I put on, and the same happened earlier in the year at a Portland one as well. And so this is my 3rd ultra of the year, and it was my 3rd time trying something new nutrition-wise. This time I had some wonderful little reusable pouches full of mashed potato. I had some pot noodles in bags, those kinds of things. So coming into the race, probably within the first 40 minutes, I hadn't eaten enough breakfast, so I reached back and just pulled out this little packet of mashed potato, and it went down real easy. Got to the first checkpoint, didn't even need anything, but walked for about 30 seconds while I pulled out a bag of noodles and ate that down and carried on running. And that's right there, it was just an easy 700-800 calories to keep me going for a little bit longer as well. So that was really great. That worked really well. So the first picture that comes up is just coming into Bridgewater, and it wasn't the nicest trail I've run, if I'm being honest. There was a lot of horrendous kind of overgrown grass. There was a lot of it just wasn't a worn-in trail. There wasn't like lots of nice stuff to see. And as you can see from the air, it was still overcast at this stage. But it did turn out into a delightful day. We ran all the way along a canal, and we were just kind of transitioning now towards the seaside. So as you can see with the map coming towards the sea over on the right. Now, as you can see in the top left here, this is kind of the elevation for the run, and you can see how lovely and flat the first section is. I mean, we won't talk about the second section in this flat race, but it's there, as you can see. Coming along and just running around. It's really easy. Barely got lost in the first half, so that was great. People who read my race reviews and those kinds of things, you'll know that one of my and talk to me about these runs is one of my big problems is I do get lost. I never read any of the pre-race notes. I don't carry any notes with me. I basically just download a GPX onto my watch and just follow the map on there. Secondary to the person in front of me, who I always assume knows the right way, which never works out well at all. But the first half of this was nice and easy. You couldn't go wrong. As long as you're right next to the canal the entire time, it was perfect. Now the second half, as I'll get to in a minute, will be a little bit different. But yeah, first half was lovely. Now I did get to the second checkpoint, which is just a little bit further down here it was. And I realised, I was chatting to the lady at the checkpoint, and that's when I realised that I was going a little bit too fast. In the first half of the race, I PB'd everything up to a marathon. Now, I've never run any of those distances for like a proper time before, and I only ever run things like, I've run one 10K, for example, competitively, quote unquote competitively. And I got my second best 10K run in this first half of the race. But everything else between a 10K and a marathon PB'd in that first half. Sub 2 hour half. It was just over 4 for the full marathon. And it's at that stage when I had a chat at the checkpoint with the lady, and she asked how I was doing well and what was I looking for. And I told her I was looking to do 10 hours on the day. And that's when she brought it to my attention that I was in there just after 4 hours. And I looked at my pacing and my timing and everything like that, and really decided at that point that I was going to turn the run in the second half of it into a fun run, and actually just slow down, do lots of walking, enjoy the whole experience and those kinds of things. And that's generally what happened. The second half, so the first half took just about 4 hours, 25 took just under 4 hours, and the second half took about 6.5 hours. So the massive change in the two sides of the story. So this is where the race got a lot prettier. There was a lot more to see. And when we get onto my Insta stories in a minute, some crazy shit happened. But the next photo that pops up is the Hinkley Power Station. Now, going past the Hinkley Power Station, it's a nuclear power plant. I was hoping to get a superpower. That did not happen, unfortunately. All my years of reading comic books are lies. You don't get it, superpowers. But a couple of interesting things did happen there. I got stampeded by a bunch of cows. I'll show you the video of that in a minute. And I jogged under what was only the most terrifying moment of my running life. One of the main power cables coming out of Hinkley goes right over the path. I felt like it was just like within jumping distance. It was that low, and the hum and the crackling of it was just a horrendous noise, and it wasn't a lot of fun. So I did quickly get through past that, even though I knew it was 100% safe. But there's always that part of your mind that doesn't think properly. It's just like, I get through. So on past the power station, and this is where the run really started to become a lot of fun for me. Really started to become a lot of fun. No idea what they were building here or what's going on, but it's this wonderful structure going out into the sea. It looks like they're building something interesting. I do keep meaning to kind of do a little bit of research and see what's going on there, but my list of to-dos is just astronomical at the moment. But it's from this point on that I started running completely with the sea on my right hand side, and the sea air, the seagulls, this is where the sunshine came out and all those kinds of things. So it was quite good from that point of view as well. So this is where the first problem happened. Coming through one of the checkpoints, I jumped onto one of the coastal paths, and what happens here is you can see where the next camera point is right down here. Okay, this is where I end up. Now the route itself is meant to cut across over here to come over here. Only I missed the turning and I wasn't paying any attention. I was skipping along like Larry, just enjoying the whole day, and ended up on a beach. Ended up on a beach that I shouldn't have been on. It was a lovely beach. I want to go back there. And what I did find, I decided, like, when I looked down at my watch and saw how far off route I was, and I'd come down quite a steep hill get to the beach, I decided there was no way I was running back at all. So I thought I'll just carry on down the beach until I can get off the beach, and I'll find the route again. So I was like, and obviously I'm hot at this point. I took a few steps down the beach and saw, this picture doesn't do it any justice, but this incredible waterfall coming down, and just this little section here, even though it looks tiny, was probably about 20 foot maybe, because I walked up to it and did my best Peter Andre kind of dancing style in there, soaked myself in the water, soaked my hat and my buff and all those kinds of things, and really kind of cooled me down and got me ready to go again. And just I bimbled along the rest of the beach until I eventually, as you can see here, I found a stair set going up, ended up in a caravan site, and then as I'm going off towards where the next photo point is, just went up this horrendously big hill, which was not a lot of fun. Lots of holiday makers. One person even offered to give me a lift up the hill, but I had to decline because it's kind of cheating. So this dark green patch here is some kind of wild deer park, and it's at this stage I kind of realised that I probably have to make sure that I hit the checkpoint, because there was a checkpoint meant to be within 5 miles of the last one. As I've already missed it, I grabbed the phone, googled it all up, and found it, and so I ended up going through the park, found the next checkpoint after going through the wonderful forest, and that was really the first part of the trail that I really kind of was real. Like, you watch all the films of like the big trails in America and everything like that, and that was the first time in this whole route that it felt like a proper trail race. Lots of wooded stuff, those kinds of things. And it just carried on from there. Lots and lots of fun. Got to see this wonderful train station. There's a whole steam engine kind of setup going on down around Minehead area. There's loads of stations, and they run the steam train down. That's proper old school fashioned stuff. Stuff that I didn't even know was there. Stuff that's now on my to-do radar, because I think the kids would love getting on the trains and going from station to station. All of the people who worked there were all dressed up in old-timey kind of station gear with their pocket watches and everything like that, and it was pretty awesome. And the run carried on, as you see. Yay, lots going on. In a moment, let's see what happens here. So that's too far there. But what happens just around, it might even be up further than there. It might even be here. Oh yeah, it will be. This detour bit just up here. So I'm going along the coastline, and this detour that happens here. So I got to a point here, and there was a sign, and it said, part of the cliff's fallen away. We've got a detour going on. Now, like I say, I don't ever read any of the pre-race notes or anything like that, and I probably should, because at this stage, I took the proposed detour that it said on the map, only I got lost. And I spent, just in that little section here that goes around that little bit, probably the best part of 90 minutes trying to find my way. I kept going up one route, back down it, a different route, back down it, all those kinds of things, just to get around that tiny little bit. Yeah, lovely. Saw lots of animals. Had another pot noodle at that time as well. But yeah, once again, just story of my ultra career is just getting lost. Then this is the wonderful time, just running all the way down the beaches into Minehead. Saw Butlins. It looked depressing. I don't know why I expected anything else. And then the final little section, which honestly was the longest section of the day. This little section from Butlins all the way up here, and it couldn't have been any more than maybe a mile, mile and a half. Just felt like the longest section ever. So that's the whole thing. Like I say, it's meant to be 50 miles, but as you saw with the at the top, 53 miles is what I ran. So I ran just a little few extra miles. So that's probably about the pace I was running, especially towards the end when I put those extra miles on. That's probably about an extra 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes that I put on there at the end. 2,000 foot climb, all in the second half, all not a lot of fun, and shouldn't have been there because it should have been a flat ultra. But the 100 miler next month has got something like 15,000 foot of climbing. So not only is it double the distance, but also, you know, it's quite 7-8 times more kind of climbing as well. So that should be a lot of fun. So that's the general route that I took. You can see starting all the way over at Taunton, all the way around down the canals, then all the way down the seaside, all the way to the end. It's pretty awesome. So like I say, I also I kind of do a little bit of talking sometimes on some of the races, so we're just going to take a look at that as well. And you can see all the ultras I've done since last year are on there. Some of them are fine, some of them I'm whinging, some of them are grumpy. But yeah, let's have a look. And let's see if this pulls up any more. Sorry. So yeah, number 66 started on the day. Hooray! There's the start line. Everyone's getting their selfies in as they always do. Two things always happen at the start lines of these races. Well, in fact, any race I've ever been at nowadays, even park runs. Like, as soon as the start happens, all you hear is beep, 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 because everybody's got running watches now that runs. So that's always funny seeing the selfies in here in the beach at the start as well of these events.
So we're about 10 miles in. First pit stop, just over 90 minutes. So that's good. Just had my first pot noodle, and I've had some mash as well, so that's great. Legs are fine, everything's going fine, and the pack isn't nearly as heavy as I thought it was going to be. This Solomon bag is the shit.
And it is. It's the best. The bag is incredible. I'm going to do like a video reviewy type thing at some point. But it's just the most incredible bag I've ever had. I had so much kit in it. It felt super heavy. I didn't think that my day was going to be a lot of fun because of the weight once I finished packing it. But as soon as I put it onto my back, it's almost like it molded into my body, and I didn't feel it. It didn't bounce everywhere like I was expecting. It didn't feel heavy. It didn't overbalance me or anything like that. Just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So many pockets to store everything I needed in there. Because like I say, on the day I was running with my kit for my 100 miler, so I had like leggings in there and Under Armour and spare t-shirts and 3,000 calories and all these kinds of things, all stuff I would never have taken if I was running this race on its own. I'd have probably taken maybe a small bum bag tops with a phone, and I'd take a water bottle with me, maybe a few gels, maybe a bit of mashed potato, and that's about it. So the fact that I was carrying all this weight and the bag did such a good job was awesome. And like I say, 90 minutes in, at this point I don't even realise the pace. It's not kind of calculating in my mind that I'm going that fast, 10 miles in kind of thing. I'm just toddling along.
Anyway, bye. Marathon in.
So this is the halfway point, and this is, like I say, you see here now, this is when I realised, or just after I realised, this is after I left the second checkpoint, I think it was. Maybe the third. whatever the halfway checkpoint was, and I'd had that discussion, I realised just how fast I was going.
In just about 4 hours, I'm going way too fast. This is going to be a 10-hour day, and now it looks like I'm on track for 8, so I'm going to slow down and walk a bit and just chill the fuck out.
And obviously, when I was walking, one of the first things I saw was the beach. And at that point, I kind of put this up. And thankfully, I don't listen to people who follow me, because I want to say at least a dozen people messaged me and told me to stop and just go and hang out on the beach. So I've just finished about 26 miles so far, just over a marathon of my 50, and all my quote unquote friends, supporters, followers, people who saw this question suggested I should just slack off and just chill out on the beach. Great support, guys. I didn't, by the way. I mean, I did end up on a beach, and I did slack off when I got to the waterfall a little bit, but that was about it. The next video is my favourite, though. There was a cow stampede. So let me put this into perspective for you. So you can see the path here, and I'm jogging down here. This is just after Hinkley Power Station. I'm having a little bit of a run, nice and flat. I'm getting off it, and I just hear this noise. This is about 5, 10, maybe 15 seconds after I saw the cow stampede. I shit myself. I look left, I look right. There's nowhere for me to go, because as you see, there's bushes all up and down the side, and there is nothing but 50 plus cows, it feels like, herding at me. Okay. So I end up, as you can see here, stood in up to my knees in stinging nettles and brambles and those kinds of things, and the cow stampede stops where these guys are right now. And after about kind of maybe 10 seconds of us staring each other down, they shoot forward and destroy the fences. They're about to finish off over here, and I'll pan to the left and you'll see this other herd that were leading the way just destroyed the fences. These bad boys here leading the charge. So all these guys were charging down, and all this fence which we're panning past there has all been knocked down, and you can see these guys which are left, and they're all going to go and hop themselves over that same a different fence now, just destroy it. And walking down, I have no idea where the cows even came from. No idea where they even came from. There were no other fields where the fences were down. There were no gates open or anything. So genuinely, wherever these fucking cows came from, I don't know. But they were spooked. They were spooked. And yeah, I was a little bit spooked.
About 32 in. About 5 and 20 on the clock. So I've slowed right down. That's really nice. I'm really starting to enjoy the run now. I wasn't enjoying the first half at all. Running too fast. There's too much pain. Well, that kind of pain cave shit. And now I'm really just starting to like enjoy the surroundings. Yeah.
More beautiful surroundings, and like I said, I'm a beach person. I'm a seaside person. I grew up down south on the coast. Anytime I get to the coast, it just chills me the fuck out. This is one of the reasons why the 100 I'm doing next month, which is the Jurassic Coast 100, I'm really looking forward to, because it basically runs the coast the entire time. That's 70 odd miles along the coast, so it's going to be wonderful. All that sea air, the seagulls, the salt, you know, all those kind of wonderful things that crash into the waves. It's going to be awesome. So I really enjoyed this second half.
So we're moving into the end section now. I mean, probably the last 5 miles or so. And it's an absolute glorious day. Glorious day. Not in a bad mood at all.
That sounded sarcastic. Genuinely, I wasn't. Genuinely, that second half, very elated. The amount of people I was passing who were just really, really angry. There was one guy just before this, which is what prompted me to post it. He was, we were in a town and we were just going up a hill. And as I was passing, how are you? And he's like, oh, I fucking wish it was over. And I was like, don't worry, it's only about 5 miles to go. And he's like, it's more like fucking 6. Rah. Very, very upset, very angry.
Now the reason why that's remarkable is usually around this time, when I'm this tired and I'm in this much pain, I'm very, very angry.
True story. You should look at some of my other stories on Insta from some of the other races. The Pusey's a really great one. Not Pusey this year. There's hardly any footage of that one because I was racing. But the first year Pusey, like, I got really fucking angry, really grumpy for sure.
But CBD though, kids, take your drugs, take them. It's awesome.
True story. CBDs. If you have any kind of like any situation, anger, depression, inflammation, anything, CBD oil is amazing. Do your research. Go to Reddit. Find a CBD Reddit. Do lots of reading. It's great stuff. Great stuff. Anyway, there's the finish. Number 66 at the end. This is after I got home. There's the medal. It's pretty enough. It's a little bit sparkly. It was little. The ribbon is nice. They upped the ribbon from the last medal I got from Albion. It's alright medal, you know. But that's about it. Would I run the race again? Probably not. One of the things that happened halfway through is my I kind of decided that like I wanted to enjoy these races, and I didn't enjoy the first half of the race like I did the second half. And that's 100% because of the pace I was putting on and the comfort and taking the time to enjoy the surroundings. Because when you're out in the countryside like that, I live in the concrete hell of Bristol. So when you're out in the countryside like that, it's really nice to, and the seaside, to kind of take that on board, especially because that's where I want to be and live and all those kinds of things. So I kind of came to the decision that I wasn't gonna run all the same races every year and try and beat my times and everything like that, which is what originally I had planned to do this year. Instead, I was just going to run the races I wanted to run, go around the surroundings I wanted to go, and all those kind of things, and really use them as like enjoyable experiences rather than running and putting myself through the uncomfortable competition type situation. Because looking at, like I say, the first half versus the second half, it was just so much more enjoyable in the second half. And could I have done an 8 hour, sub 8 hour 50 miler that day? I reckon I could have. Not easily. It would have sucked, and I wouldn't have been running the Sunday afterwards like I did, the Monday afterwards like I did. And you know, since the 50 miler, I've put up about 10 miles running, about 30 miles cycling already. And that's going to continue to ramp up towards the 100 miler. Could I have done those things if I'd have done a sub 8? Probably not. In fact, probably almost definitely not, because I'd have been trashed. But I'm just about enjoying it now. So the next one, the 100 miler, my original plan was to go sub 24 and kill myself doing it. So now I'm just going to enjoy it a lot more. And then my schedule's open for the rest of the year. So I've got to find different races, some different ultras, those kind of things. If you've got any suggestions, pop it in the comments. That's about it. So, I mean, out of 5, I give the race probably a 3.5. 3.5. You know, it was well organised. There wasn't a lot of kind of real food at any of the stations. There was a lot of peanut butter wraps. So I'm kind of glad I took my own food for that, because I don't know, if I'd have been feeding myself on peanut butter wraps for the day, I wouldn't have enjoyed that too much. The markings were not as good as the last one that I ran that they did. Now, in theory, I'm sure if I'd have read the race notes and all those kinds of things, I would have, you know, paid a little bit more attention. So it's part of my own fault. But when I look at kind of the A grade of some of these runs that I've done, like Race to the Stones is a great example. Like, there was no way I was getting lost there. You know, no way. There was signs up all over the place. There were shepherds everywhere and all those kinds of things. And the first half of it was a little bit dull. There was a bit too much concrete for my liking. But the second half was just beautiful, just beautiful. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5. Yeah. That's about it. Bye.